All right, here with us now, contributing columns to the Washington Post, George Conway, and CNN contributor and former Nixon White House counsel John Dean. George, I want to start with you, counselor, just for a quick reaction on what we just heard there. And again, it was hearsay. He wasn't saying that he knows Roger Stone was in contact with the Oath Keepers in 2016. But again, it's Roger Stone and the Oath Keepers in the same sentence there. The overall significance.
Well, the significance is we know that there are links between the Oath Keepers and Roger Stone. I think he was using them for security at one point. And I think it dovetails with a couple of open questions that were left yesterday. One was, how did some of the Stop the Steal organizers know that Trump was going to spontaneously urge them to march to Capitol Hill? There was some connection there between Ali Alexander and the White House. And what, was it through Stone? Was it through Giuliani? Was it through Bannon? We don't know. And there is a lot of unexplored territory there, but the connections between the people who ended up going up to Capitol Hill or organizing that rally and the White House.
This gets to my basic overall question, which is, legally speaking, I know this wasn't a legal hearing, what's different today based on what we heard than yesterday? And for that, I just want to play a little bit of Vice Chair Liz Cheney, how she made her argument.
President Trump is a 76-year-old man. He is not an impressionable child. No rational or sane man in his position could disregard that information and reach the opposite conclusion. And Donald Trump cannot escape responsibility by being willfully blind.
Okay, John, willfully blind, carefully chosen words. Why? And beyond that, the legal significance or progress that was made by the committee yesterday.
Well, for those who don't know what willfully blind is, it's just turning away and not looking when you know misbehavior is occurring. It was used a lot in the drug cases where people would say launder money. They say, oh, I didn't know that was drug money. But it's a well-refined concept in the law, and it can be used very effectively. That's what Trump may be trying to do. But she's pinning him right early and saying, we're not going to tolerate this.
John, what did you think about some of those unanswered questions that George raises from yesterday about how did they, assuming many of them knowing that Trump was going to call for them to go to the Capitol, even though it wasn't in the actual speech, Trump was ad-libbing it, even though he planned to say it. What does that mean to you? Well,
we did learn that he had tipped his hand to several people. So the word had probably gone out quietly. They knew what they were supposed to do when they got there. They were loading their arms and putting them over in Virginia. They were ready to do whatever was necessary. So I think there was more, the breach was huge, but not for any way other than to help the Trump supporters who were there to cause trouble.
And George, the fact that there is evidence, it seems that it was planned, and the fact there is evidence, it seems that it was attempted to be kept quiet. What does the combination there mean?
Well, that combination is you've got a conspiracy, because there's potentially a conspiracy, because you've got that information flow. People are talking to one another, and not every person has to talk to everyone else in the conspiracy. So the information flow is very interesting for that. And the fact that it was concealed shows the potential criminal intent, because it shows that you knew you were doing something wrong and something that you would be called out on. And so you didn't want it to be revealed until the very moment you wanted to bring it out. So both of those are, those are very interesting questions raised by those facts. I don't think it's necessary for us to answer all of those questions to determine Donald Trump's criminal liability, because the fact of the matter is he did other things. We have the fake electoral certificates. We have the attempt to compromise, to corruptly influence the vice president. We have the attempt to corruptly influence state legislatures, and in particular Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger. Of all that, this could add, at a minimum, what Trump did on January 6th and the call out to his supporters to be wild on December 19th. That adds to the idea that he was ready to use any means necessary to stop the counting of electoral votes on January 6th, which he knew was the last step necessary for the election of Joe Biden. And he should have known, what happened was this should have been done as Cipollone said, on December 14, when those votes were signed, the electoral votes were signed and sealed and ultimately delivered to the Capitol. And, you know, the fact that he was still trying, he knew he had to stop them from being counted. And there was no legal way to do that. He was told left and right, there's no legal way to stop this. And so he was resorting to illegal, potentially illegal means, trying to persuade his vice president to violate his duties and encouraging a mob.
His weapon was the crowd.
And yet, are we in a place where any more of what we have heard would stop Donald Trump from pursuing another run for the White House?
No, it's actually encouraging him to do it.
And
because
where does that leave us?
That leaves us with 2 years of possible hell. He's going to run, and unless, you know, if there are multiple people running against him, he could get the nomination with 35 or 40% of the vote. That's basically what he did in 2016 because of the way the rules are set up and because, you know, it's a fractured field. And this is not going to be, this campaign that he would run isn't going to be the kind of campaign that sensible political advisors would tell him to run, which would be about, you know, gas prices and so on and so forth. It's going to be about him because this is stirring him up. He's getting crazier and crazier. If you look at his Truth Social feed, this is driving him nuts. And one of the things about this hearing is it's going to make him more obsessed with relitigating the 2020 election, and he's going to say a lot of crazy stuff.